Rust Console's Cultivator update happened 10 months ago, and what is the relevancy with this? Well, Cultivator was not only the introduction to Teas and basically a farming based update, but it also introduced us to the new look of Rust Console, the new textures, and to my knowledge the biggest graphical update that Rust Console has seen. But was it good for the game? So whilst Rust isn't really known for its great quality graphics, of course if you have a beast PC you can obviously have a really good gaming experience that can hold the quality that you can have on the game. However, a lot of players, specifically PvPers, want to gain more performance over graphics, so they dim down their settings. Unfortunately, console does not have this, and in turn specifically new gen players are basically taking a hit for the graphical look of the game because optimizing old and new gen. It's becoming more of a common theme that the graphics for Rust Console specifically is not good, and I had the similar thought, and I was thinking to myself, well, they updated them, how can it not be good? How have we regressed in the graphics? And something I've really noticed recently that I also put in my prior video, if you haven't watched that, go watch that already, is the fact that a lot of the textures are smeared, not sharpened or defined, and this is actually something a lot of people also agree with. I thought I was in the dark with this, however it seems like I'm not. And I always thought to myself, you know, the graphics before the graphical update, sure, I like the new textures, I liked how it kind of looked more like PC, that is cool. However, we actually took a hit in how good everything looked. Now, if we go back to the beta days or the couple first wipes of the game, sure, we had a lot of glitches. However, the game looked 10 times better. So how have we gone from this to this? Now, this is something seemingly Pedro isn't, too informed in, as one of his responses to me talking about how the graphics feel as if they're not as good, I said that beta graphics were better. Or is this a myth? Is, the new terrain better than the old graphics? And he said, well, he believes it's a myth. But coming to think of it and seeing all of your guys' comments talking about how the graphics have gotten significantly worse, I don't think it's a myth. I think, the beta graphics were really nice. The sun and the water, most particularly, I can remember from beta, was actually really good graphically. Now, have we taken a hit within the graphics because of how much that added to the game? Let's say we had military tunnels and all the updates we've had up until this point with also the same graphics that were really good. Would that have put a performance or lack of performance within the game because of how good everything looked? Or is it because we are optimizing both generations? In my opinion, I think this is the reason. We're optimizing both new and old gen, which we've already gone over and spoken about multiple times in multiple videos, and I've asked Pedro himself and he hasn't really said much. For anyone that hasn't watched my previous video, I'll just put the DM up here of what Pedro said. He said, unless there's an issue somewhere that is causing textures to be affected, I don't see how the graphics would be worse after the release of the new terrain. Back then, when we released the update, everyone was super pleased with how the new graphics looked like. The sharpness of the textures is still the same, except for the terrain that got better textures recently. With the PS4 and the Xbox One, I don't think many graphical improvements will be possible. But again, that's up to the rest of the team to decide. My knowledge is limited on the technical side of things. I'm just going to say this here. From what I'm getting at from that last paragraph, where Pedro said with PS4 and Xbox One, I don't think many graphical improvements will be possible. I'm interpreting the, last paragraph of what Pedro said as in PS4 and Xbox One cannot have any more graphical improvements. So, in which, doesn't that hold back the new generations? I'm just going to say this now. The complaints that I'm seeing from the graphics, it's not because I'm bringing it up and, saying my view on it. People are saying, oh, okay, this guy, myself, actually has the same view as mine. And they're leaving comments saying, yeah, I agree with you on this. This is not something that there's a minority. This is happening a lot more frequently now. I'm seeing more messages saying the graphics aren't that good. And if the graphics are going to stay like this and not be upgraded, the game will die. Not just based on this, but based on a factor, so many factors go into why games die. It's not going to be down to the graphics. But if a new player, for example, sees PC and how that runs, they're like, okay, well, I've got a console, Rust is on console, let me try it out. And they look at the graphics and they're kind of like, this game's been out for 3 years. How have the graphics got worse. Of course, we have the sharpening slider and new terrain slider, and I play on sharpen and play on low terrain, but the sharpen still doesn't feel like it does much. This message came after I said I play on an Xbox Series S, and I also showed pictures of the AK, because the AK looks like something out of Roblox. And Pedro replied to this saying, "We did bring the new terrain to the game and other changes. It's important to keep in mind that visuals have huge performance impacts and that needs to be kept in check. It's really hard to make significant graphical improvements at this point." And like I said in the last video, I think it's because we're optimizing both gens. How can we make a game look so crisp and so good when, you know, we are still taking into consideration the game is for old gen players? And it kind of, you know, it makes me think, like, of course we've got the new terrain and all this and that, but do you remember how laggy the game was on old gen when we had those graphics and obviously everything else within the game? And does it feel like they've kind of made the graphics how they are, obviously to meet the needs for PC, but to also dim them down a bit so old gen players can play on the newer graphics a lot easier than the old ones? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I just thought it would be cool to just make a video surrounding this, because I do think it's a thing. I think it's very real that the old graphics are better than the new graphics, and if they're not able to make the graphics better than they already are, because we've got PlayStation 4 and Xbox One holding the graphical changes back, then damn, I don't know how this game will survive, truth be told, really, because we're in the new gen era right now. It's been out for 4 years, and there'll probably be more consoles on the horizon because of newer games such as GTA 6, which will be groundbreaking in how good the graphics are, and it will need a new console for that. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you're new around here, leave a like on the video, and let's start a conversation. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.